right, here we go. Give me 1 second. We're getting everything hooked up for our first live stream in a very, very long time. We're definitely glad to be back. So let's get this thing going, and then we will dive into everything that we are here to talk about. Like the title says, it's college football live talk. We are here to talk to you guys, the viewers, bringing your questions and topics. We have a list of topics ourselves, and we're going to be here for the next hour, hour and a half, however long it's going to take to address all of your questions and comments and concerns. We're ready to get back in the swing of things because, like I said, it has been way too long since we kind of jumped back in to these live streams and this college football live talk. Give us 1 second here. All right, get our comments up here. We got a lot of people going around. We got Syracuse and Buffalo Sports, Cameraman Edits, Prince 6'1". Good to see you again. Jeff Wilson, Mike Myrick. Hey, good to see you guys as well. Let's see how many viewers we can get on this thing and see if we can get some really good discussion going. Like I said, over these next hour, hour and a half or so. So, for those of you that haven't been here before, welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. For those of you that have been here before, thank you for coming back. Like I said, I know it's been a very long time since we've done one of these live streams, and we'll address this periodically throughout the show. But one thing that our main goal is going to be having a live stream every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. We're gonna have it at least 3 times a week here at the Gridiron Expert. We would love for all of you guys that have been regulars, even those of you that are new, to continue to coming back on those 3 days. Follow us on Twitter at Gridiron Expert. That's where we're going to put out the times. You know, we can't, college, as some of you guys know, is a very difficult time, very busy time with classes and extracurricular activities, things like that. So I can't commit to a certain time on all of those days, but our goal is to do one at least every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, maybe a couple others sprinkled in there on top of our regular content that we have. And as I've mentioned before in previous videos, we have a lot of content coming up for you guys there. And we're going to address some of that here on this live stream. So Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, times to be announced on those dates. So make sure you follow us on Twitter at Gridiron Expert for updates on that, or just pop in whenever you get the alert. If you have our alerts enabled to push notifications, those always will work as well. So really excited to jump into that. It's something that we really want to stay committed on going forward. So if you look around some of our good friends, you have Uncle Lou, you have Mark Rogers, you have guys like that. They are very consistent with their live streams. That's something that we're going to try to do, something we're going to try to pursue. Always have great discussion. I hope we can get the same here at the Gridiron Expert. On top of that, obviously we got a lot of discussion going on already. Prince 6'1", appreciate it. That's a fly suit. I appreciate that. Try to keep it classy here as always. One thing that we have new here on this live stream, something we haven't had before, is the new super chat. I'm sure some of you guys do know about that. Some of you guys may not. We've had a lot of comments, concerns about potentially getting, better quality here at the Gridiron Expert. We have a nice suit, sure, but we're looking into getting a microphone. We're looking into getting better editing equipment, better cameras, and so forth and so on. This super chat allows you guys, if you want, your chat first off gets highlighted and gets thrown out there. It's very bold, stands out more than any other comment that is out there. But it also helps us out a little bit. You can choose any sum to donate to us at the Gridiron Expert. I know I'm not one to ask much for money or for help, but the super chat has been something that's been very beneficial to other YouTubers, some of my friends out there that do this type of things that we do, these live streams, this college football analysis. So if you guys want to contribute to us and help us out, those super chats are always greatly appreciated. Like I said, we're going to do this every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. Any amount is always greatly appreciated. We're going to hopefully continue on this, and if we can get enough, we can be able to afford things to make this channel better, not only for me, but for you guys as well, the viewers and the fans of college football that have really just, made this channel thrive and made it to where it is today. So as always, we'll reiterate that a couple more times, that the super chat is available for anyone that wants to throw that out there. Mike Myrick, you guys do an awesome job, and we appreciate that. We appreciate a lot of work, not just for me, but for all of these other YouTubers. We put a lot of work into this, a lot of time and a lot of effort on top of the things that we have to do in everyday life, our jobs and our school and everything like that. So it definitely is a lot of work. but we love it, and we're if we didn't love it enough and we didn't want to do it, then we wouldn't be doing it in the first place. So yeah, we appreciate that and the support that we get from you guys. So let's go ahead and dive in. We've got a list of things that we want to talk about here, and as as I mentioned, this is College Football Live Talk. We want to hear from you guys. We want to hear from the viewers. I've got the comments pulled up right here, so I want to see what you guys have to say. Any questions or comments and concerns that you have, we will discuss that as well. This is live streams thrive off of the live chat, so chat it up in there. Let's see what you guys have to say, and we'll address it and answer any questions and see if we can get some good discussion going. But one thing I do want to touch on first, more than anything, we will have a completely separate video coming out for this very, very soon, breaking it down into more detail, is the amount of head coaching changes in college football this offseason. And really, this was not one of the biggest, off seasons for coaching change. I think like last year was more eventful than this season, but we'll go ahead and list them real quick. We've got Dana Holgorsen going from West Virginia to Houston. That's a big time get for the Cougars. Getting a coach from the Power 5 school and the Big 12 in West Virginia. We saw what he did at West Virginia. Bringing him back to Houston, where he obviously has very close roots and very close connections there. So that's a big deal. Just take in a sense a step down from a Power 5 head coaching job down to a Group of 5 head coaching job. But Houston, for the past couple of years, has been one of the more dominant Group of 5 schools. I know Central Florida has taken that title and that role as of late, but Houston, if you remember, was very dominant a couple of years ago, beating Oklahoma in that season opener, rising as high as number 6 in the rankings, beating Florida State in the Peach Bowl. That was with Greg Ward and, of course, Tom Herman as head coach there. So Dana Holgorsen, I think, will get Houston back to that kind of national prominence, that national level, where they're going to be able to make a pretty solid impact. Manny Diaz going over to Miami. And, of course, we all know Manny Diaz took the head coaching job at Temple. And when Mark Richt announced his, all of a sudden his retirement, Manny Diaz made the correct choice to come back and take the head coaching job at Miami. Miami by far greater than Temple all across the board. So that's a big-time get for Miami to get their head coach back, or to get their defensive coordinator back in Manny Diaz. The defense was by far the strength of these Miami teams the past couple of years. I think he's going to get the job done there. Dan Enos coming in as new offensive coordinator for the Hurricanes. He did a phenomenal job, I felt like, at Arkansas, a decent job at Central Michigan as head coach, and most recently as quarterbacks coach and kind of an offensive consultant at Alabama. We saw the job that he did there. It's a big time get for Miami. I think they were going to be struggling for a while had they not landed their guy and kept some consistency there like they did in Manny Diaz. Neil Brown going from Troy to West Virginia, a big time get for the Mountaineers, replacing Dana Holgorsen. That was Neil Brown coming over from Troy. His Troy teams have been very fearless these past couple of years, going into Death Valley, beating LSU this past season, going in to Nebraska and to beating the Cornhuskers. And yeah, Nebraska wasn't, one of the top teams of the Big Ten, not even alone in the nation, didn't even make a bowl game. But anytime you are a Sun Belt team, at the least, Sun Belt team, going into one of these major Power 5 schools and beating them, that's huge. So Neil Brown, I've been saying it for a while that he was bound to be taking a Power 5 job very, very soon. And he got it going into the Big 12 with West Virginia, one of the more difficult places to coach, I think, in the Big 12. So a big-time get for the Mountaineers. Let's see if Neil Brown can, replicate the success he had at Troy. Can he do that in the Big 12 with the high-flying offenses and continue that high-flying offensive success at West Virginia? Before we continue going through these comments here, a lot of comments from everybody. 20 Savage, nice to see you again. Emperor of Rome, nice to see you again. Glad you guys are here with us right now. We'll touch on Nick Sayers' comment here in a little bit. What do I think of all the big quarterback transfers? We actually had a video come out on that, addressing all the quarterback transfers just about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. Went into detail on every one that we thought was major. There were a couple that still hadn't happened yet. Shane Buechele, though, going from Texas, now going to SMU. A very good fit for him. Staying in state, first off, SMU in desperate need of a quarterback. Ben Hicks transferring to Arkansas. Now with Chad Morris, his former coach at SMU. So a big-time get for Arkansas and Ben Hicks, but also for SMU and Shane Buechele. That's a big-time get for them. He might be able to get them back to bowl eligibility. And we'll touch on that a little bit more here in a little bit. We got plenty of time. Is Georgia going to be back next year? A question from Syracuse and Buffalo Sports. I don't see any potential drop-off in Georgia's production. Yeah, they struggled in the Sugar Bowl, but, to Texas, lost to Texas in the Sugar Bowl. But like a lot of people said, that was a game where was Georgia's heart and soul really into it. Now that's no excuse for the way they lost, but they were just narrowly left out of the college football playoff, and they were playing in a, as some would say, meaningless bowl game in the Sugar Bowl when they could have been playing in the college football playoff, as some just thought they deserved. I don't think they deserved it this year, personally. But I do think they will be back. I don't see Kirby Smart and his team taking any significant drop off, despite some of the production that they did lose. I still think they're going to be at the top of the SEC East. However, Florida is quickly closing that gap. Dan Mullen did a phenomenal job in year one. He is quickly closing that gap on the Bulldogs. That Georgia-Florida game next season will be very telling and more than likely will decide who wins the SEC East. SEC Football Tube, nice to see you here. Haven't talked to you in a while. Glad to see you back. Hope things are going well. Sugar Bowl should never be meaningless. I do agree with that. In my eyes, bowl games, period, should never be meaningless. I've addressed it when we did our bowl predictions, and we talked about that and gave you our spread picks and our straight up picks and analyzed all those. It really irritated me when you would see some of the big name players choosing to sit out of these bowl games, in preparation of the NFL draft. And I do understand why they do it. I do understand, because you play in a game like the, for example, Alamo Bowl. I'm just throwing one out there. You have a player, one of the top quarterback prospects, or if you have one in the Alamo Bowl, that means nothing. That's a great bowl win, could clinch 9 wins, 10 wins, however many wins. That's great for your program and university, but you're not playing for a national title. You're not playing for a conference title. It's just a trophy that you can add to your collection. And in that game, you risk getting hurt and potentially ruining your NFL career, or at least hindering it and ruining your draft stock. So I do get where they come from when it comes to not playing in bowl games. But I think for the fan base, for the other players and the coaching staff, it is kind of a, not a good choice to sit out those bowl games. I don't think any bowl game should be considered meaningless by any means. And I didn't even see that Syracuse and Buffalo Sports, once again, with that kind of attitude, they might as well just get rid of New Year's 6 bowls. People have talked about that. I think there are too many bowl games as of right now. Wouldn't get rid of New Year's 6 bowls. Those are by far the most exciting and by far the most important. Do I think there should be more teams in the playoff? This is a good one. We'll get back to our head coaching changes here in a second. I haven't forgot about that for those of you that were paying attention to that. But Jeff Wilson, great question. Should the playoff be expanded? I agree with that 100%. I think it should be expanded. To me, 4 teams isn't much of a playoff at all. I don't think 4 teams is considered a playoff. I mean, back years ago you had the BCS era and it was your top 2 teams, and that alone had some controversy. I go all the way back to 2011 when Alabama and LSU met in the national championship game, and Oklahoma State was just barely left out. That was a very controversial year where you had and back then you couldn't have. Back then, you were only allowed to have 2 teams from one conference make a BCS caliber bowl. So you could have, an SEC team make the national championship and an SEC team make the Sugar Bowl. And if you had another SEC team that had 10, 11 wins at that time, they couldn't go to one of those BCS bowls. That's how it came down to it. So the SEC had both of their, tie-ins in the national championship that year. So some of the higher caliber teams after that were stuck going to some decent bowls, Cotton Bowl, Outback Bowl, so forth, so on. But straying from that, 4 teams isn't much of a playoff. I think they need to at least expand it to 8. I think that's where you need to go. And regardless of how much you expand it to, there will always be controversy. There will always be people that will be unhappy. Now you've got the 4 teams, and you look at the people that are sitting at 5 and 6, thinking, oh, we should have gotten in. That was teams like TCU a couple of years ago. I think the first year they had, that was a team like Baylor. That was a team like Georgia this year, Ohio State 2 years ago. So there's always going to be controversy. Even if you expand it to 8, where you're going to have teams sitting at 9 and 10 thinking, why weren't we in? We should have gotten in. So that's never going to change. The committee is not going to change this format anytime soon either, which is extremely frustrating for us as fans because, I would like to see 8 teams get in. You throw, some teams like a Georgia and Ohio State and hell, even, UCF in the playoff this year. That would have been, watch. You put up an Alabama, UCF, we settled this national championship. So that would have been a lot of fun to watch itself. But I think the playoffs should be expanded at least to 8 teams. I know Mike Leach even wanted it to be expanded somewhere like, 64. Now, that was a little too much for me, but it'd be a lot of fun to watch. I think 8 teams is where it should be. I think 8 teams is where it should stay. You look at teams like in the NFL, they have 6 teams in the AFC and the NFC. Look at the NBA, they've got 8 teams from the East and the West. I don't see why we couldn't do 8 in college football. I think that's where it needs to be. SEC Football Tube, the first ever to do a super chat here at the Gridiron Expert. We really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much for that support. Every little bit counts. It goes towards helping this channel continue to grow. To do so much. So SEC Football Tube making history right here. The first ever to do a super chat on the Gridiron Expert. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate that. I'll owe you one certainly down the road. Syracuse and Buffalo Sports. Some good comments here. Group of 5 teams should have a shot at the playoff. If they get their ass kicked, so be it. I don't see anything wrong with that. I agree. I mean, UCF probably would have gotten annihilated by Alabama, but so be it. At least to get their shot. Although UCF, though, at the same time, had their chance to schedule some games with Florida in the regular season and backed away. So these guys are really all talk, until it's really time to come out there and play. They can talk the talk and they walk the walk. But you're right. If you give them that shot, if they get killed, oh well, maybe they pull off an upset. I think it should be worth a shot. But that's something that I really don't think is going to change any time down the road. And that's very unfortunate for the game itself, I feel like. UCF wasn't as good as this year as they were the year before. The defense was rough. Yes, and I'm going to go on a limb here, and a lot of people might disagree with this. I believe that UCF would have beaten LSU had McKenzie Milton been healthy. Daryl Mack Jr. played a phenomenal game in the Fiesta Bowl, without a doubt. The defense was very rusty. They allowed LSU to score 40 points. And I know a lot of LSU starters on the defensive side of the ball were sitting out. But I think McKenzie Milton, he's healthy. I think UCF does win the Fiesta Bowl. Once again, finishes undefeated. But that was a very gruesome leg injury, one that might even keep him out this upcoming season, which is why Brandon Wimbush transferred down to Central Florida. Daryl Mack's going to be fighting for his job there. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. But UCF definitely has some work to do down the road with Josh Heupel continuing the strong success that Scott Frost had during his time there. Before we get too much into the comments, again, we're going to keep going on these head coaching changes. We have, like I said, a lot on the agenda. We got down to Neil Brown. We got Jeff Collins going to Georgia Tech, kind of the end of an era for the Yellow Jackets. Paul Johnson leaving, retiring himself. So that's going to be a big turnaround for Jeff Collins coming over from Temple, taking over the Georgia Tech job, implementing a new style there, kind of trying to change the culture a little bit. So, for a Georgia Tech team that has had, decent success under Paul Johnson, but never really got to where they wanted to be. They really, they competed in the ACC, but never really got to where they needed to be. So hopefully Jeff Collins can get there and once again make them a threat in the ACC, getting them back to the ACC title game. But right now, the ACC is Clemson's conference, and it's not even close. There is no team in the ACC that can even compete against Clemson. Miami can't right now. Florida State can't right now. Florida State didn't even sign a quarterback in their recruiting class this season. And DeAndre Francois is out. He's done at quarterback for the Seminoles. So, there is not a team in the ACC right now. Syracuse was out, as Syracuse and Buffalo Sports just mentioned, but they had played extremely well. But they lose a lot of production this year, especially with Eric Dungey at quarterback. Now, they're going to be fine. I think Dino Babers you're not going to see a drop-off from a Syracuse team that won, 9-10 games this year, dropping all the way down to non-bowl eligibility. Not what I'm saying at all. But this is Clemson's conference, and it's not even close. Jeff Collins needs to try to change that and try to make Georgia Tech relevant again, once again, in the ACC. Tommy DeVito, right, is the real dude. And yes, he played a decent amount this season in for Dungey, whether Dungey was not doing well, whether he was hurt. And I do agree that DeVito is the future for the Syracuse Orange, at least for right now. Thomas Hunter, I really think you could have a segment like you do on YouTube on ESPN someday if you have the talent and work ethic for it. Why that? Right there. This is why we do it, for comments like that and with support like that. So I appreciate that, and that's obviously the ultimate goal way down the road. So I appreciate that, Thomas. That does mean a lot, comments like that. Let's see what else we have here. Do I think Notre Dame should be in a conference? And a lot of people right after that said Notre Dame needs to join the ACC. But look, Notre Dame joined the ACC in basketball. Why can't they do it in football? That's my philosophy there. Notre Dame's independent, and they play well as an independent. Here's the thing though, but the majority of their opponents on their schedule are ACC opponents. So why not just join the conference? Why not just join the ACC? I think that would even benefit Notre Dame more than anything else than hurt them. I know they enjoy being an independent. They've got their deal with NBC. for televising games. It's nice to be an independent, not have to worry about going to a conference championship or anything. You go 12-0 like they did this year, and you're practically a lock for the college football playoff. But you lose a game. Had Notre Dame lost this year, they wouldn't have made the playoff, regardless of who they had lost to. Even if they had lost to one of the upper echelon opponents, I still don't think they would have made the college football playoff. You go to the ACC, you can get in as a one-loss conference champion, without a doubt. And you go to the ACC, you're going to be playing Clemson. Whether or not they'd be in their division or not, who knows? But even if they weren't, they'd play in the ACC title game. You win that, you're guaranteed a spot in the college football playoff, assuming you only have one loss. So, I do agree Notre Dame should join the ACC. That's my philosophy there. But that's, probably, once again, not going to happen, just like that playoff expansion. And if it does happen, it's not going to happen for a very, very long time. Emperor of Rome, do I think the SEC will expand in the next 5 years? Now that's a very, very good question. The SEC expanded, back in 2012? That's when they added Texas A&M and Missouri. If they were to, there's been tons of speculation lately of who they would add in the SEC. Some people were talking about, what if you threw in Texas? What if you threw in Clemson? What if you threw in Louisville or Florida State? Or, there are a bunch of teams people have talked about of who you might throw in the SEC. In the next 5 years, no. I don't think anything's going to happen in the next 5 years. It takes a lot of time just to negotiate these things and arrange these things. Because, as we as fans, we just think about, it'd be simple. You just do some paperwork, you talk to some people, boom, you join a new conference. But there's a lot to that. You've got, TV deals, you've got, obviously merchandise, you have things that you have to deal with within the university and the program. It's not just that, it's not that simple. So, I don't think anything's going to happen in the next 5 years. I think things could happen after that, though. Maybe there are things that are in the works right now that we certainly don't know about, and we won't know about until closer to time. But I don't think anything's going to happen within the next 5 years, although I would like to see an expansion. And there's always been the possibility of you don't even have to expand. You could see teams in the SEC move to another conference. Now, in my opinion, the SEC is the best of the best. Why would you want to drop out? Well, you would drop out so you can maybe compete. People have talked about some of the teams that have struggled a lot lately, like an Arkansas, like a Vanderbilt. I know they made a bowl game this year, but recently struggled. That people say they should leave and go to another conference, and maybe in a conference such as the Big 12 or the ACC or something like that, they could compete more. Big 12 geographically is the only one that makes sense for really any team in the ACC or in the SEC, except for maybe some guys, in Florida going to the ACC, Kentucky, ACC because of Louisville, guys like that. But no, I don't think there's going to be an expansion anytime soon, as much as I would truly like to see one. All right. SEC football tubes out of here. Once again, the first one to do a super chat here, so we really do appreciate him. And as he said, hope you have a good day as well. So we really do appreciate his support. And anyone else that would like to add super chats, like I said, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, we will try to be here doing live streams. Make sure you check Twitter. That's when we're going to put out what time we're going to be here, or just pop in at random like we did today. Like most of y'all have probably done today as well, because I know I put that tweet out not too long ago. But super chats is what's going to help fuel this channel, help fuel us, and we appreciate all of your support so much. Moving on, like I said, we're going to continue to talk in the comments here. But moving on, continuing those head coaching changes, and that is something that, once again, we will throw out an individual video on by itself. We will have a whole video dedicated to head coaching changes and really breaking them down into more detail, breaking it down to some more stats, and really kind of what we think the impact of these coaching changes will be. But moving down, we have Ryan Day at Ohio State. Now, whether this is considered a coaching change, whether you think it is or not, Urban Meyer deciding to quit. Now, is it really the end for Urban Meyer? Time will only tell. I doubt it. Urban Meyer loves the game too much. He was at Utah, went to Florida, and stopped coaching at Florida, went to Ohio State. There was speculation that he was going to quit Ohio State for a little bit. But this was a very shaky year for the Buckeyes. With all the scandals and all the issues that Ohio State and Urban Meyer had early on in the season, Ryan Day coming in as interim for the first couple games, went 3-0 in those games, but their toughest test over that stretch was TCU in Arlington. And TCU did not have the best of seasons at all, despite winning the Cheez-It Bowl. But Ryan Day, anytime you can promote, especially at a big university like that, a big program like that, anytime you can promote from within, promoting their offensive coordinator, head coach, Miami, taking Manny Diaz, making him head coach, anytime you can keep that consistency there, that is huge for a program. It's sometimes very tough to bring in an outsider or a coach from another school. But keeping, trying to keep your coaching staff intact and keep that relationship with those players is huge for a program that wants to stay at the top of the Big Ten and stay relevant at the national stage. Ohio State, I think, will continue to do that with Ryan Day. Matt Wells coming over from Utah State over to Texas Tech. A very intriguing hire, one that I'm very, very skeptical on. We'll go into more detail on that later when we do our actual video over head coaching change. Texas Tech struggled mightily with Cliff Kingsbury, who is now somehow the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. But I don't know if Matt Wells was the right man for this job. Once again, only time will tell. Give these coaches some time. Give them a year, at least 2 years, maybe 3. That's when you're really going to start to see progress. And if you don't after that, then you know they're not the right man for the job. Matt Wells was the one out of all of these that I really questioned. Scott Satterfield going over to Louisville, a big hire for the Cardinals, who were trying to get Jeff Brom over from Purdue and weren't able to do that. His alma mater, of course, being Louisville, we're not able to draw him away from the Boilermakers. Scott Satterfield from Appalachian State, once again, one of the more, prominent and toughest power or group of 5 schools as of late, especially in the Sun Belt. Giving Tennessee a fight a couple years ago. We all know what happened to Michigan back in 2007. Of course, that was years and years and years ago. Appalachian State, of course, almost beating Penn State in the season opener of this season of 2018. Can he continue that at Louisville, who just had one of the worst seasons in school history, firing Bobby Petrino? Louisville was tough to watch this season. Hopefully Satterfield will be able to turn them around and get them to the point where they were with Lamar Jackson just a few years ago, back relevant in the ACC and relevant for a little bit on the national stage. One of my favorite, these are my next 2 favorite hires of the entire offseason. These were the 2 right here. Mack Brown going back to North Carolina. That one just really, really got me excited. I thought Mack Brown was done for sure. He'd been out of the game long enough. When he retired, 2010, 2011, 2013, somewhere around there. But Mack Brown going back to North Carolina, where he had coached before, trying to get them back once again to ACC relevancy. The ACC and Big 12 tied for the most. We've talked about the ACC so much. Big 12, ACC tied for the most coaching changes out of everybody. ACC and Big 12 both had 4 head coaching changes this offseason. So for the Big 12, that's huge because there are only, 10 teams in that league? ACC, there are 14. So 40% of the Big 12 had changes at the head coaching position. Mack Brown going to North Carolina, and then my personal favorite, Les Miles, the Mad Hatter, back in the coaching game, coaching the Kansas Jayhawks, that we know have struggled and really have never been the same since, 2007? That was the year they made the Orange Bowl and nearly made the national championship game. So that excites me more than anything. Now, Les Miles is not going to come out here and make Kansas Big 12 title contenders in year 1. He's not going to make them, I don't think he's going to get them to national relevancy like he did back in 2007 to early 2000. That's not going to happen, maybe at all. But that was a big-time hire for a Kansas team that had, or for a university that has by far been a basketball school, and their basketball team isn't doing as well as they're used to this season. Les Miles is going to come in, made some major headlines. That was the blockbuster hire that they needed. And I think that within 3 years, Kansas will once again be back in a bowl game for the first time in nearly, or at least over a decade. So that is a huge hire for the Jayhawks. I cannot wait to see how they do in year 1. Give Les Miles 3 years. He's going to have this program turned around, at least way better than they were under David Beatty and as they've been for about the past decade. Let's go through the comments here a little bit. Kind of died down a little bit. Let's see. Talking a little bit about Drew Lock, Kelly Bryant. We'll touch on that a little bit there. Kelly Bryant played on a loaded Clemson team. Jeff Wilson, I guess he's out of here now. But hey, he had a lot of good discussion points. So we were glad that he contributed to the chat. And we were able to talk with him for a little bit. And Mitch Thayer says hello. And we're glad to see him, one of the more frequent viewers and commenters here at the Gridiron Expert. And as always, appreciate his support and really good topic points anytime we have a discussion. So glad to see him here. As our videos have died down, of course, I haven't been able to chat and have discussions with you guys, the viewers, as much. That's why we were trying to do these live streams at least 3 times a week to keep up contact and to keep up some discussions with you guys, the viewers. Closing out the coaching changes before we dive into any more discussion here. Mike Locksley going over to Maryland, big time hire for the Terrapins, going over some major scandals at their university. I think he will once again make Maryland. I mean, Maryland's always been around that 5-7, 6-6, occasionally breaking through for a 7-5. Hopefully, Locksley can get them up to that 8-9 win mark. But the Big Ten, it's tough. It's going to be a tough road for Maryland, who has the talent there. But with a new head coach, I would expect once again give him at least a couple of years. And then finally, Mel Tucker and Hugh Freeze. Tucker going to Colorado, defensive coordinator at Georgia, taking over for Mike McIntyre, who is now at Ole Miss. And Colorado starting off 5-0 this past season, and then just tanking and missing out on a bowl game, and rightfully so. Look, Mike McIntyre did a phenomenal job. What was it, 2 years ago when he got Colorado to the Pac-12 championship game? Dealt with some injuries. Was kind of the biggest surprise team. Was looking like one of the biggest surprise teams this season for the tank. Mel Tucker has been the anchor and has really built up that Georgia defense that's been so dominant for the past couple of years. I think he can continue to do that over at Colorado. Now that's going to take some time. Colorado wants to remain relevant in the Pac-12 like they were, back, a couple of years ago, like they were for the first half of this season. Mel Tucker is the man to do that. I think that Colorado, this was a big time hire for them, and I think one that's going to really be a benefit and one that's really going to work out down the road. And Hugh Freeze going to Liberty. Liberty being a very religious school, kind of an ironic hire for them. The Liberty Flames hiring Hugh Freeze after everything that went down with Hugh Freeze at Ole Miss, as we all know how that all turned out, the saga there. But this is kind of what I think is going to be a kind of a bounce back for Hugh Freeze. We've seen many coaches go to smaller schools, whether that's in the Sun Belt, whether that's an independent school, and then land another big-time Power 5 job after that. I mean, you saw guys like Gus Malzahn and Brian Harsin both coaching at Arkansas State before leaving to take the job at Auburn and then Boise State. Bobby Petrino at one point, after his whole saga at Arkansas, went and coached at Western Kentucky for 1 year before getting the Louisville job. So this is what I think Hugh Freeze is doing. I don't believe Hugh Freeze is here at Liberty for the long term. I think he comes here at Liberty a year, maybe two, bounces out, lands another Power 5 job, because there are going to be plenty that are going to be open after this next season, if not the year after that. So that I believe is what Hugh Freeze's plan is, but he is back in the coaching game for now. And like I said, very ironic that he would land at a place like Liberty. He was probably just trying to get their name on the map. They're an independent school. They beat Baylor 2 years ago in the season opener. That kind of got them on the map. This was their first year in the FBS, and they didn't do bad. Hugh Freeze might be able to get them to a bowl game in his first year, if not his second, if he sticks around that long. Emperor of Rome says, if the SEC expands, it should be Eastern-focused, in my opinion, maybe North Carolina, Virginia, North Carolina State, guys like that. And I do agree with that. There's no need. You can't look. These conferences are all based. It's geographically based. So go east, not west. And the farthest west team right now is Texas A&M. The teams that are in Texas, TCU, Texas, Houston, guys like that. And there's a possibility you could see a team like Houston, not go to the SEC, for example, but teams in the group of five jump up into Power 5. I think that's more likely than anything else right now. But Eastern's probably going to be the way to go, but as Syracuse and Buffalo Sports just said, guys like North Carolina, Virginia, North Carolina State would be average to below average in the SEC West, and even would be average to below average, I think, in the SEC East, because you have your Georgia, you have your Floridas. I think Jeremy Pruitt has got something going at Tennessee right now. I know they missed out on a bowl game, but they will be getting there without a doubt. Just landed a very high recruiting class, so I don't think they would fare well in the SEC, period. Although Virginia is back, trending up again. Bronco Mendenhall doing a good job there. North Carolina State has been doing a pretty phenomenal job, although they lost their star quarterback in Ryan Finley. And then North Carolina, as we mentioned, just landed Mack Brown, who I think is going to really turn around that program and get them back to relevancy as well. Comic Dude 45, been a while since we've talked as well, so good to see you here in the chat. Any questions y'all have, any comments you want to throw in there, we are here to discuss them. So good to see you again, Comic Dude 45, and as always, Emperor of Rome, good to see you guys as well. And once again, the super chat is open. We reiterate that. I know reiteration can get boring, can get old, can get frustrating, but we have to do it. Something that we really want to throw out there. Any amount helps us out more than anything. So we appreciate any support and anything you guys can help us out with. see, going through the comments some more. We're going to touch a little bit here on, not too much. I'm not, as important as it is, recruiting and National Signing Day isn't something that's normally high on my list. It's not something that I get excited about and really sit down and study. And it is extremely important, and I do a little bit on that. But that's not something that, I mean, you know, that as big of a deal, that's the way these programs are fueled, without a doubt. That's the way these programs succeed, is through recruiting. But that's not something that we like to touch a whole lot here on the Gridiron Expert. Although National Signing Day was just this past week, and the SEC led the way with 11 teams finishing in the top 25 when it came to the recruiting class. Alabama, Georgia, Texas A&M, and LSU made up 4 of the top 5 in the National Signing Day recruiting classes. And depending on where you look, these rankings may vary, but this is where I'm getting these from, which is I believe 24/7 Sports. Alabama, Georgia, Texas at 3, Texas A&M at 4, LSU at 5, and 3 of those 5 teams being in the SEC West. And in my opinion, probably those are the 3 toughest teams in the SEC West going in to 2019. Now, people will say, what about Auburn? Auburn finishing 11th. Auburn was without a doubt not a contender in the SEC West this year, was not a contender in the SEC period this year. They started off as one, got a big-time win against Washington, started off strong, but lost to teams they shouldn't have lost to. Did not look good. Gus Malzahn, in my opinion, should have been fired at the end of the year. I know they annihilated Purdue in their bowl game, but a rough start this season, which I believe opens up against Oregon in week 1. That would be very telling for where this Auburn team is at. With the SEC leading the way with 11 teams in the top 25, including 5 in the top 10, 4 of the top 5 from the SEC. The next best conference, Big Ten, finishing with 5 in the top 25, the highest ranked team from the Big Ten being Michigan, not Ohio State, Michigan finishing with the 8th ranked recruiting class in the entire nation. So a big time get for Jim Harbaugh, who's once again just trying to get Michigan to the point where they can beat Ohio State first off and really just win the big games. Michigan has not been able to win the big games when it matters. They can't do it. They weren't able to beat Florida State a couple years ago in the Orange Bowl. They failed miserably against Florida in the Peach Bowl, and once again have yet to beat Ohio State. They've come close, but have yet to do it. And I know that's frustrating for you Michigan fans. But landing the 8th ranked recruiting class and having as much as you guys don't like to say it, Jim Harbaugh, I like him as a coach. He's a good coach. He's not getting the job done when it matters in the big games, and until he can do that, he probably will be in everybody's doghouse. But I like him as a head coach. I like his personality. I like his tactics. The second best conference, Pac-12, finishing with 4 teams in the top 25. The highest ranked team, Oregon. And I'll touch on the Ducks for a little bit here. Oregon finishing with the 7th ranked recruiting class in the nation. Returns one of the best quarterbacks in the nation in Justin Herbert, who will be by far a first-round draft pick in next year's NFL draft. And returns quite a bit of production on both sides of the ball, especially on the offensive side of the ball, entering 2019. Oregon is probably going to be the team to beat in the Pac-12 and could maybe be a dark horse for the college football playoff. Not going that far, but this could be a year for Oregon like Washington's year was a couple years ago. I think it was 2016 when Washington made their run and made the college football playoff. I can see that being very similar here with Oregon. A lot of players returning, a very strong recruiting class, an experienced coach in Mario Cristobal, and then a very experienced quarterback in Justin Herbert. Those are the pieces that you need to make a run to the college football playoff. Now, defense will be key, without a doubt. Washington, when they made their run, had a very good coach, Chris Peterson, had a good quarterback, Jake Browning, but their defense was the one that got them there. That's going to be the key for Oregon. But there's a very solid chance they're going to be one of the more dangerous and maybe one of the more slept-on teams. Now, there's also a very good chance they could go out there and just disappoint. I think one of the biggest disappointments this season was, Auburn, for example, a team that many thought could make the college football playoff, compete against Alabama and Georgia, and they weren't able to get the job done there. So that's something to consider. But Oregon and Mario Cristobal doing a phenomenal job on the recruiting trail. And then the Big 12 and the ACC both tied with 2 teams in the top 25. Big 12, Texas finishing with the highest ranked out of all Big 12 teams, finishing 3rd in the country. Second best was Oklahoma, coming in at 6. So, Texas, Oklahoma, by far, I think the top teams in the Big 12 right now. Now, you've got some teams out there that are going to, once again, compete against them. But West Virginia has a new head coach right now. Don't think they're going to be as competitive as they were this year. Iowa State certainly trending up without a doubt. Might be able to pull off an upset against Oklahoma or Texas this season. They're certainly moving in the right direction. TCU, I would like to have said them. Gary Patterson's a coach that I do not like to doubt in his teams, but he didn't show it in the Cheez-It Bowl. And things change over the offseason, without a doubt. Gary Patterson's one of those coaches that his teams usually tend to have a really, really good year, and then they tank, kind of go average, maybe miss a bowl game, and then they're back to being really good. They fluctuate. You just never know what you're going to get from the Horned Frogs. But Texas and Oklahoma will be the top two teams in the Big 12. And then the ACC, as we mentioned, only 2 teams making the top 25. Highest ranked ACC team was Clemson, the defending national champion, but only finishing 10th. Not bad. I wouldn't be complaining. 10th ranked in the entire nation when it comes to recruiting, not bad. Second best, Florida State, coming in at 16th. But the biggest thing surrounding Florida State right now is the fact they did not have a quarterback signed in this recruiting class, and they have a bunch of issues at the quarterback position. DeAndre Francois, of course, being dismissed from the team. Willie Taggart's comments on that are, we've got a plan, and I think it's a pretty good one, and I think it's going to work. That a man without a plan would say. I don't think Willie Taggart knows what he's doing. I think he's, that's stuff you're going to tell people to try to make them not worry, but things aren't looking good for Florida State right now, and Willie Taggart may not have been the best man for this job and for the Seminoles. So Purdue was one of the bigger surprises on top of everything else as we've gone through these rankings. Purdue was one of the bigger surprises for me, landing the 25th best recruiting class in the nation, which is big. Purdue taking major steps forward despite that annihilation that they got in the, I think it was the Birmingham Bowl to Auburn. Things are really trending up for them. They've got the pieces to once again make a pretty solid run in the Big Ten. Finish at a decent. They had a chance for a little while to play in the Big Ten championship. I mean, you remember Northwestern played in the Big Ten championship game and they had 4 losses. So Purdue was one of those teams that was still in the hunt very late in the season, despite having quite a bit of losses and starting off the year 0-3. Jeff Brom's not going to allow that to happen again. Purdue will be one of those teams that wins about 7-8 games, I think, come 2019. So a very solid recruiting trail, and just a brief recruiting recap. I don't touch a whole lot on that, as important as it is. If you guys want more of that, leave that in the comments. That's something that we will definitely dive more into if that's something you guys want to see more of. I'm going to read through some of these comments real quick before we jump into our second topic. Let's see. Alan Wang said, do I think the Florida Gators will make the playoffs within the next 2 years? If Florida's going to make a playoff run, things are already trending up for them this after 2018. I think Dan Mullen really exceeded expectations in 2018. They're going to have to get some consistent quarterback play. Felipe Franks gets a lot of hate from the Florida fan base and from those outside of the Florida fan base. I don't think he's a horrible quarterback. Has he been very inconsistent? Yes. Yes, he has. But I think he is the right man for the job. I know you've got guys in there. Kyle Trask, Emory Jones, guys like that. Felipe Franks, I think, needs to stay the man for the job. We saw major strides from him, major improvement from him this season compared to what he was like under Jim McElwain's offense. Florida will be in the hunt for the playoff, I think, over these next 2 years. Once again, it's going to come down to, can they win the SEC East over Georgia? So that game against Georgia is going to be very, very telling, I believe, later in October. So that's going to be the key. If they want to make the playoff, that's what they're going to have to do, is beat Georgia. Emperor of Rome once again says the only Western edition he would be interested in would be Texas. And that would be, we're talking about expanding the SEC here for those of you that haven't been, maybe just came in or have forgotten. That would be the only team I think that could be added to the SEC West. Texas is one that everybody wants to see, and you would get to see. Think about the matchups there. You throw Texas in the SEC West, you'd get the rivalry reignited with Texas A&M and Arkansas. You would see Alabama and Texas every year, and those would be the 3 I'd be most excited about. Is Texas playing Arkansas, Texas A&M, and Alabama every year. The thing is, it's not going to happen. Texas has so much. Reminds me a lot of Notre Dame. So much money into that program. Longhorn Network, one of the most, dynamic programs in history, and are certainly back on the rise. Tom Herman has really transformed this program back, and he's gotten them back into national relevancy, hunt for the college football playoff, hunt for the Big 12. Because I do not think, despite the way they handled Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, don't think they right now could compete in the SEC West against the likes of like Alabama, Texas A&M, LSU, maybe Auburn on occasion. They're better off staying in the Big 12, where I think they have a better chance of winning the Big 12 and maybe slipping into the college football playoff over these next couple of years, because Tom Herman is without a doubt the right man for the job. Let's see, Jeff Wilson's back. Is Missouri underrated? He just asked that a couple times, so I'm going to answer it. I feel bad for Missouri now, as they are now not going to be able to go to a bowl game in 2019. Got that bowl ban served to them after some, academic allegations. I believe it was a tutor that was doing some work for some players. Some believe that was overreaction. That was too harsh a punishment for Missouri compared to what some of the other schools have done and the repercussions they have faced. But, I wouldn't say they're underrated. Kelly Bryant, I think, kind of got screwed. He didn't know about that when he transferred over to Missouri. But at the end of the day, as I have read multiple times, as many people have pointed out, these players, like Kelly Bryant, for example, didn't necessarily transfer to Missouri to go win a national championship or to go to a decent bowl game. These players are trying to do everything they can to improve their draft stock. Kelly Bryant believes that that's going to be the best fit for him, the best offensive fit for him to put up some good numbers, to play well, and to improve his draft stock going into next year's NFL draft. He has no intentions of transferring anywhere else despite this bowl ban. I know I've danced around the question. I do not believe Missouri is underrated. No, I believe they're right where they need to be. Middle of the pack, SEC East. Still good enough to beat the teams like Tennessee and Vanderbilt. Not good enough to beat the teams necessarily, even though they did it last year, like Florida or Georgia. So I don't think they're underrated. Still around 7-8 wins right now. Kelly Bryant might be able to push them over the edge to that 9-win, maybe 10-win mark. I wouldn't go that far quite yet. But without a doubt, Barry Odom doing a phenomenal job with that Tiger team. Comic Dude, I hope the 150th anniversary of college football is the charm for Rutgers football this year. Go Knights! And I know it has been a struggle, Comic Dude 45, to watch to watch Rutgers football as of late. I know it's been extremely frustrating. So maybe 150 is the charm, at least to get back to a bowl game. Jeff Wilson, do I think Auburn should be ranked? No. Flat out no. They should not be ranked. They probably will be. I'm not going to, that's one of the things that the Associated Press does a really, really good job of, is when they have a blockbuster game laid out for week 1, they want those games to include ranked versus ranked opponents. Auburn opens the season up against Oregon, who absolutely will be ranked, should be ranked in the top 15. Auburn will be ranked probably somewhere around 24, 25. If they win that game, they show that they deserve to be it. I don't think they deserve to be it, but I can almost guarantee that they will be, even though they certainly do not deserve it. And that's not me hating on Auburn in any way. That's just the way it should be. A team that finishes 7-6, loses quite a bit of production on both sides of the ball, does not deserve to be ranked until they can prove otherwise. Let's see what else we have. Do I have BYU going to a bowl game this year? That was from Broken Ego. Hey, prediction season's coming up in June, guys. We're gonna be counting down that pretty soon. We'll have a video posted later when we have the date officially nailed down to start getting you guys ready for prediction season. So, and before then, I don't really like to divulge away. Trust me, I'm doing tons of research now. We don't just make these predictions on the spot right before we shoot a video. There's a lot of work and research and time that goes into those predictions. BYU showed a lot of progress, won their bowl game this season, and proved me wrong in 2018. Can they do that again in 2019? I'm not going to go that far yet, but I would say things are certainly trending up for the Cougars. Does Tate Martell get eligible for next year? That's from Jose Sosa. I believe he will, yes. Let's see. Do I think Iowa State will be ranked? That's from, of course, Mitch Thayer. I think they deserve to be, despite losing to Washington State in the Alamo Bowl. I think things are certainly trending up for the Cyclones. Brock Purdy, coming in as a freshman, mind everybody, as a freshman quarterback, played extremely well. And they lose some key offensive starters. and that's going to be the kicker for Iowa State. But the way they started trending up over the second half of last season, and narrowly I would, if I were on the, if I was a member of the Associated Press ranking these teams, I would have Iowa State ranked somewhere around 20th, maybe anywhere between 20 and 25. I think they do deserve to be ranked. I would say that, Mitch, absolutely. Emperor of Rome, taking care of business, deleting some comments that certainly didn't need to be there. I appreciate that. He is my moderator. Him, I think 20 Savage, are my moderator. So I appreciate that. Way to go. Let's see. Did Tua get robbed? Emperor of Rome. I talked about that a lot. And you look at the stats. Kyler Murray was just a much bigger threat on the ground than Tua was. The thing that frustrated me when it came down to this Heisman selection was the fact that Tua played lights out from week 1 till about week 10, week 11. And towards the end, he struggled and, of course, was battling injuries. So that was my biggest deal there was Kyler Murray deserved the Heisman. Not saying that he didn't, that Tua should have gotten it and that he got snubbed. But I could have made a very strong case for Tua to do that. I don't believe one game should prevent someone from one bad game or one game someone misses for injury, prevent them from getting the Heisman. Multiple bad games, or if you're out for multiple games, sure. But that was very, very close. I think if I had been voting, I unfortunately probably would have given it to Kyler. I probably would have given it to Kyler Murray. I think not only was he a prolific passer, very underrated passer in my opinion, he was much more dangerous with his feet, escaping the pocket, making plays on the ground than Tua was. Even though Tua ended up getting the best of Kyler in the college football playoff. Jake Harvin, do I think Utah could go 10-2 or 11-1 next season? That's pretty bold. That's pretty bold. That's high expectations for the Utes. Wouldn't go that far. No, I don't think they're going to have. Once again, I haven't done as much research on Utah yet. We're really breaking down the teams slowly now. We haven't really gotten into our Pac-12 analysis or anything yet. But 10-2, 11-1 is pretty high expectations for a team that did lose to Northwestern, if I'm correct, in their bowl game. And then the future is bright for Utah. Bringing in some of those freshman stars, freshman quarterback, freshman running back, when Tyler Huntley, Zach Moss went down, that showed some very promising signs for Kyle Whittingham and this Utes team. But wouldn't go that far to say that quite yet. But, of course, just wait until June or July when we do our Pac-12 predictions, and you'll certainly find out for sure. Jeff Wilson said, what do I think about Trevor Lawrence's future? The kid's going to be playing on Sundays, and there's no doubt in my mind about that. Comes in as a true freshman, wins the national championship, beats out Kelly Bryant. Doesn't just win the national championship, but picks apart that Alabama defense. Just annihilates them. He's going to be playing on Sundays. I think right now Clemson is as much as people might not like to hear it, is the front runner to win the national championship in 2019. We have a lot of games to play. The season hasn't even started yet. That's all speculation. It's almost a year away. But they are the front runner of the ACC. They're going to make the college football playoff. Things are really looking good for Clemson in the future for these next couple of years. So he's going to be playing on Sundays without a doubt. But for right now, I think he will win at least one more national championship at Clemson. Shut Up says, who are the top 3 teams in the SEC East next year? Well, obviously it's Georgia, Florida. Those are your top 2. And I would rank them as such. Georgia 1, barely. Florida 2. You look at the third, that's where it gets tough because there's a really big drop-off, I think, from your elite in Georgia, Florida. And then you've got teams like your Missouri. You've got Tennessee, you've got South Carolina, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. Kentucky's going to see a drop-off this season. They lost a lot of talent. Benny Snell, Josh Allen, guys like that. They were production. But I would say my third team right now would probably be Missouri at 3. That would probably be the third best team in the SEC East. Tennessee is on the way up. Vanderbilt is not going to be there quite yet. But I think it goes Georgia, Florida, Missouri, barely. But it's very, very close between Missouri, South Carolina, and Tennessee. You could throw Kentucky in there. I would still put Vanderbilt down towards the bottom, even though they're showing improvement. But yeah, I think that's where we would stand right now. Did I watch the AAC games? The what was that? The American Alliance Football or the Alliance of American Football? That I did watch some. I believe that's what you were trying to say there, Emperor of Rome. Not American Athletic Conference games. I'm sure you meant the Alliance of Football. But, they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm not complaining when I can get any extra football from the months of February to May, which will get me through to about summer. And then, by that point, we're diving into prediction season. Everybody's getting hyped. August rolls around, and boom. Last week of August or first weekend of September, and you are starting college football all over again. So I did watch some. I think it's really nice to see some of the former big-time college stars going out there and once again trying to make a name for themselves. And I see this as once again a good platform for these players to perform well, maybe get signed and picked up by another NFL team. That is what this is. And more than anything, I like the fact that they let the guys play. If you were watching, I can't even remember what game it was. It was the Orlando game, or was it San Diego? Someone last night laid one of the biggest hit on Mike Bercovici, former Arizona State quarterback, knocked his helmet off, and there was no flag. Guarantee that had been college. Guarantee that had been the NFL. There would have been a flag thrown for that. That player probably would have been ejected for the hit on that quarterback. But they let these guys play. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch. It really doesn't mean anything. It's a good opportunity for these players to try to, once again, make a name for themselves, try to get back into the league, try to work their way back up. And, for us fans, it's going to be extra football to have for these next couple months. Football that's going to be fun to watch. Steve Spurrier is back on the sidelines, so that's good. That's fun in and of itself. And you're going to get to watch some of your former, college football stars from your schools or ones that they beat up on your schools go at it once again. So I'm really excited to watch it. I personally am a fan of it because I think it's a little more lax compared to college football and NFL. More so NFL than college. Let's see here. Do I think it's true? This is from Mitch Thayer. Do I think it's true that Clemson gave some of the players performance-enhancing drugs, PEDs? I think that is Dabo Swinney's way of almost not trying to cover up, but we had, what was it, Dexter Lawrence that was suspended for the game, for the national championship game in the college football playoff. I think that is almost a way of covering up for that. This is not some major Clemson scandal that's going to come out and they're going to try to take away their national title. That's not going to happen. So no one freak out. If you're a Clemson fan or a Clemson hater and you want that to happen, don't. That's not what's going to happen. I think I would almost go to say this is a little too dramatic than it needs to be, getting a little too much more attention than it needs. So I wouldn't dive too much into that analysis on if Clemson truly gave some of their players performance-enhancing drugs. I can't imagine them doing that. Jeff Wilson said, do I think Central Florida should join another conference? Yeah, they're right now, they're in a sense, there is the Power 6. You got your Power 5, and I consider the Power 6 to be the American Athletic Conference. That's what Central Florida is in. If they're going to make a move, if they were to make a move up one more, they'd have to join the ACC, which exactly is what Comic Dude 45 just said. UCF is for the ACC. If they're going to go to a Power 5 conference, it has to go to the ACC. Geographically, that is what makes sense. Competitively, I think that's the one that makes the most sense for Central Florida. But I do not think that's going to happen anytime soon. Don't think there's a chance that's going to happen. Emperor of Rome, that hit was amazing. It was San Diego. Okay, so it was San Diego, San Antonio. Right, it was an unbelievable hit. Once again, clean, no flag, fun to watch. That's how football is meant to be played. So it was a lot of fun. And he said it's been a long day. Hey, I understand it's been a long week for me, and trying to get everything back on track, and got to start all over again tomorrow. So for all of you guys that have to go back to work or school or whatever, I'm in the same boat. Certainly not looking forward to it. So we've hit about the hour mark here on this live stream. We're not quitting quite yet. Make sure we are still looking good on everything else. Once again, just a reminder, the super chat is up. Any contributions you guys want to make are always greatly appreciated. We, as always, appreciate just your support, the fact that you guys are here watching the live stream, contributing to the chat. This is what fuels these live streams that are going to be happening every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So once again, the super chat is available if you would like to help us out and make this channel better, hopefully better than it already is. But even if you do not, we still appreciate your support in helping make the Gridiron Expert what it is today and what it will hopefully become down the road. We are trying to get to 2,000 subscribers. Hopefully, it is middle of February now. Hopefully by the end of April, that would be our ultimate goal. But I know it's taken a while to get there. So. Let's take a look at what we have here. We just touched on the American Alliance of Football, or Alliance of American Football. That was a big topic that debuted last night. Continuing on today, on Sunday, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. This extra football that we can get there. One thing that I have seen, we touched a little bit on the Missouri scandal. Touched a little bit briefly on that. That was one thing that we did have on our list there. One thing that I would like to discuss and see y'all's comments here, do you guys believe that the Alabama dynasty is over? After the national championship beatdown they received from Clemson, that was the hot topic. Is the Bama dynasty over? We've never seen a team beat Alabama the way Clemson just did in the national championship. What was it, 44-16? People were already jumping to conclusions saying it was over, it was done. Do you believe that? From my point of view, I would say absolutely not. Absolutely not. Alabama will once again be the king of the SEC. Georgia and Florida are rising up in the East, who they would have to face in the SEC championship game. Texas A&M is making moves in the SEC West. So was LSU. Auburn, no, not necessarily. But people jump to conclusions. Anytime, if the New England Patriots had gotten beat 44-16 in this past Super Bowl last Sunday, a lot of people, and it would make a little more sense, they would say the dynasty's over. Brady's getting old. Belichick's getting old. Time for the young guns like Jared Goff and Patrick Mahomes to take over. But that's not necessarily true. People have some bad games. People just don't show up. Bama's dynasty is not over. Judging from the comments, you guys don't think so either. Shut Up says Bama dynasty ain't over. Mitchie3 says no. Comic Dude 45 says Bama dynasty won't end until Nick Saban retires, but they do have a legit challenger for the throne. And I think that's the best way you could put it right there. And Emperor of Rome said it best, one loss is not in a dynasty. Just for the record, I never believed it did. That was something that we had seen multiple articles written about. But, I agree. One loss is not in a dynasty. One bad performance is not in a dynasty. And as Comic Dude 45 said, it will not end until Nick Saban retires. Same, I believe, with the New England Patriots. Belichick and Saban, very similar to one another. Not going to end until they retire. They're the best coach in the NFL, best coach in college football in my mind. But they do have a legit challenger for the throne right now. That is, of course, Clemson. And in the SEC, it's not getting any easier. Jimbo Fisher is making a strong case for Texas A&M to be a legitimate threat in the West. LSU show that they are once again relevant in the West. And on the Eastern side, Georgia and Florida. I can't stress that enough, that they are bound to upset Alabama at some point. Maybe not this upcoming year, maybe not the next year, but they're getting there. They're building something. Dan Mullen and Kirby Smart are building something at Georgia and Florida. Taking a look at some more of the comments here. Make sure everything is looking good. Like I said, we've gotten a lot of great discussion points from you guys today, and as always, we greatly appreciate that. We've gotten a little bit of contributions from the Super Chat. Of course, that will always be available on these live streams Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And once again, the times for those live streams will be coming out on Twitter at Gridiron Expert. Check that out. Go follow us. We tweet periodically now, but that's how you're going to get these updates. Or if you don't want to, just pop in. If you have these push notifications on, we would appreciate that. And go ahead and subscribe to us if you're at it. If you are watching this right now, or if you've been talking with us, subscribe to the Gridiron Expert for some of the best college football content here on YouTube. Prediction season is right around the corner. We're already doing a lot of work and prep on that. We can't wait to get started. And as always, a lot of the talking points we have had today, we will have individual videos for as well, so you can get a little more in-depth analysis and a little more time spent on those topics. Any other topics you want to see, leave those in the comments here. We, of course, always will take those into account and use those. Mitchie3 says, do I think Texas is back? I think, for now, they are, without a doubt. I think it's this year, 2019, that Texas gets to play LSU, and I think that game will be in Austin, and that will be, once again, a very telling game of if Texas is really back. Now, the performance against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, kind of some people said that justified them being back. Them making the Big 12 championship game, them beating Oklahoma on the regular season, justified them being back. Things are certainly looking up for Tom Herman and the Longhorns, though. I think they're going to start off the season in the top 10. If not top 10, top 12, I would be shocked if they dropped anywhere below that. Because they've got the team and the pieces to once again make a run in the Big 12. Oklahoma now adding Jalen Hurts at quarterback is going to kind of throw a wrinkle in Texas's plans. But I don't think Jalen Hurts is no Kyler Murray. He's no Baker Mayfield. He is good, without a doubt. He will beat you on the ground. He is, once again, underrated passer. But this is the year that if Texas wants to win the Big 12 and make a case for the college football playoff, they're going to want to do it this year. So, hey, shut up. Gave us $2 on the Super Chat. We appreciated that. More than you know, man. Thank you so much for that. Go Gamecocks, he says. So, big-time South Carolina fan. Really appreciate the support there. And what you gave us on the Super Chat there. And like I said, every single bit counts. That these mean more than you guys know. Your comments, your Super Chat contributions, everything else. So appreciate that from you guys, and we can only hope to continue to get more as we continue these live streams as the season goes on. So once again, shut up. I know when I say that username, it doesn't sound good, but that really is his tag. So shut up. Thank you once again so much for that. Let's see what else we've got on the chat. Oregon Ducks, football and basketball. He's back. I haven't talked to you in a while either, so we're doing good. I'm glad you are doing well also, so glad to see you back here on the chat. I'm glad to see you back watching some of these videos. Oregon says he hopes Oregon's back. They're on track, but haven't 100% proven it. And I'm telling you, that Red Box Bowl, they didn't prove it either. 7-6 over Michigan State, one of the ugliest bowl games I have watched. Maybe one of the ugliest ones of the 2018 postseason compared to the Cheez-It Bowl. But I think Oregon is in for a very, very good and it looks like a very good and promising year in 2019. Jeff Wilson, Tua, or Jalen Hurts? Without a doubt, Tua. We know why. I mean, we saw it in the national championship game. Tua was clearly better. He beat out Jalen at Alabama, won the national championship for him over Georgia, beat him out in the offseason to claim the starting job. Tua, especially as a quarterback. There's something to be said for having a dual-threat quarterback. Kyler Murray was a dual-threat quarterback, and he could do it all. He was very accurate and very impressive with his arm skill, with his throwing, but was very dangerous on the ground. Jalen had the edge, I think, moving on the ground compared to his throwing ability. But if I'm a coach, I would take a player like Tua, who can stand in the pocket and deliver some very accurate and deep throws, over Jalen, who can, maybe escape the pocket, make some plays, but is kind of sporadic with his throws. Tua by a long shot. But Jalen will fit in well with Lincoln Riley in this Oklahoma offense, and will once again keep Oklahoma relevant in the Big 12. Don't know if they're going to be able to make, what would that be, the third consecutive college football playoff appearance? But I've doubted Lincoln Riley before. He usually proves me wrong. So maybe he can do the same with another transfer quarterback in Jalen Hurts. Comic Dude 45 says, I hope Rutgers can get back to 2006. We need our first natty since 1869. We need to be powerful as the birthplace of college football. One can only hope. One can truly only hope for Rutgers. I would love nothing more than to see Rutgers crack just bowl eligibility, 6-6. For you, Comic Dude 45, without a doubt. Just to see them get bowl eligibility once again, 6-6. That'd be huge for the Scarlet Knights. Go through these comments, and again, we're getting some great feedback and some great comments here. As always, you got it, Comic Dude 45. Absolutely. Love talking with you guys. You guys bring up some really good discussion points, and there's something to be said for, as you guys know, this channel here has never been one to relay on biasness. We don't like to be biased. We have a team. We don't like to discuss it though because we want to discuss all of college football, but to discuss y'all's fan bases, to discuss Rutgers football, Oregon football, Alabama, Iowa State, whoever it may be. That's fun for us. That's fun for me. I have no prejudice against any FBS. So I enjoy talking with you guys about your team's issues and seeing how those things can play out for you guys. That's what you guys want to talk about. Obviously, I would want to talk about mine too. So that absolutely. So yeah, Comic Dude 45. Always good to hear from you. Hope to see you back on Tuesday or Thursday, whenever you guys can make it back for our live streams. Emperor of Rome, great question. What is the worst football game I have watched? You know, what justifies a bad football game? Is it watching your team get annihilated? Is it watching your team lose in heartbreaking fashion? Or is it just overall like the Cheez-It Bowl this year between TCU and Cal? What was it, 9 combined interceptions between the two teams? That was horrible. That was one of the worst games I've ever watched. Is it one like the Super Bowl, one of the most boring Super Bowls I've ever watched, between the Patriots and the Rams? A game that was supposed to be, full of, offensive firepower. Tom Brady, Jared Goff, Sean McVay, Todd Gurley, guys like that. You were supposed to see a bunch of points scored and ended up being 13-3. Tons of punts. Depends on your style of football. Do you like defensive battles or do you like shootouts? I would say, and you guys won't believe me when I say this, but I a lot of people criticize, am I an expert or not? Do I know what I'm talking about? I haven't watched football, don't know a look at football, all that good stuff. I think it was back in 2007, 2008. Yes, I do remember. I've been watching football for a long time, since I was a young kid. But it was Auburn, Mississippi State. What was that, 3? I think it was around that year, 2007, 2008. It was 3-2 was the final score. And you want to talk about a boring game. That is certainly one right there. 3-2. A field goal and a safety. Extremely rare, first off. But, I mean, talk about low scoring and talk about boring more than anything else. A couple of years ago, I think Virginia Tech and Wake Forest played in a game. I think that game went to 2 overtimes, maybe 3, and the final score was 6-3, 3-0, somewhere around there. So a very, very boring game there as well. So any game, those type of games for me where you see I prefer, as you guys know, and as you have watched, I prefer high-scoring shootout games. I like a lot of offense. That's the type of game I like to watch. That's why I was disappointed in the Super Bowl this year. I don't like to see blowouts either because you can turn off the game at halftime and it's over. But I would say those games, that Wake Forest, Virginia Tech game, that Auburn, Mississippi State game, those were some really, really bad games. Very frustrating to watch. Even though I had no reason to games. As an analyst and as a guy who loves the game of college football, I watch every single game that I can. So those were some rough ones to watch there. Oregon football, basketball, Cheez-It Bowl was more bad offense. Redbox was more good defense. And I would say that Michigan State did have a very solid defense. Same with Oregon, who's hoping to show some improvement there. Cheez-It Bowl, right, more bad offense. Poor decision-making more than anything else. 9 combined interceptions. That wasn't necessarily defense. That was just horrible quarterback play. And TCU ended up winning that game on the ground. That's how they were able to pull off the win there, was just being on the ground. Super Bowl 53, Comic Dude 45 said, it was so bad, me and my friends started cheering whenever the Rams got a first down. We were just desperate for something to cheer about. And if you, very true, very true. I'm with you there. But if you listen to the crowd, if you go back and watch some highlights, I think the crowd got louder than it had been maybe all game when the Rams picked up a first down because they had gone for multiple, 8 straight punts, something like that. So, yeah, you cheer for what you can, in games like that. You take anything you can get, any points you can get. Any positive yards you can get is usually a blessing in games like that. Comic Dude 45 also said Bama and LSU used to be slugfest. I miss the days when those were good. One of those games, if you don't like, low-scoring games, Bama and LSU, game of the century 2011, 9-6 in favor of LSU, right? Yeah, that was the year that Bama and LSU met each other again in the national championship game, and Alabama got their revenge 21-0. But 9-6, just back and forth. LSU winning that game in overtime at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Don't think that was a bad. To me, that wasn't a boring game because that's kind of what you expected. The top 2 teams in the nation, number 1 versus number 2, slugging it out, back and forth. That was certainly deserved to be called game of the century. Now, was it the most memorable? No, but it was a lot of fun to watch, despite being such a low-scoring game. And I want to go back to the days where Alabama and LSU determined who won the SEC West and were once again very competitive. This year it was, 29-0. A couple years ago it was 10-0, all in favor of Alabama. LSU has to step it up. They will never be able to get over the hump if they can't beat Alabama. And not many people can do that. In the SEC, at least. And the Emperor of Rome does remember that game, so I was right. It was 2008, Mississippi State in Auburn, 3-2. It was a very, very brutal game to watch, without a doubt. All the way back in 2008, so a little over a decade ago. Crazy stuff. It was crazy how much has changed since then. That's not a game that I would ever want to relive. One that I certainly flipped the channel quite a bit on. Scroll through these comments one more time here. We're about to wrap up this live stream. Anything else anyone wants to throw in there, go ahead and do it. We've been going for about an hour 15 so far here. Most of these live streams will run for at least an hour. That's our plan, at least. We want them to run at least an hour. So that's kind of the way we want to do it. Gives you guys enough time to throw in what your 2 cents, to give us any strong discussion points. We'll always have a list of things to discuss, and usually that can spark some discussion from you guys in the comments. We love to hear from you guys. Love to hear from what you have to say. And, sometimes arguments spark out, and for me, that's a lot of fun to watch as they pop up on my screen on the other end. Comment 245, one of the final comments here. What is your ideal final football score? I'd say 38-28, with the team I'm rooting for coming out on top. Personally, I would say, of course, my team coming out on top every time. That would be perfect for me. 38-28, if you're looking for, if you want your team to win and not have to have a heart attack in the process, 38-28 is a perfect score. But for me, I'm not going to be biased. Let's pretend my team's not in it. I would say anywhere between, 38-35. I think 38-35 is about where I want it. So now that's a lot of points being scored. It's a close game. Coming down to the wire might be a game-winning. A team trying to leave a game-winning drive. That's where, that's the type of games I like to watch. Not some crazy outlandish game where, like Texas A&M and LSU at the end of this season going into 7 overtimes. Now that was a lot of fun to watch too. Just back and forth all night. But 38-35, 31-28, somewhere around there. Of course, if my team's not involved, that's what I usually like to see. It's a lot of fun, enough points being scored, keeps you on the edge of your seat, usually shapes up for a very close finish, whether that's a game-winning drive, something happening on the final play of the game, game-winning interception, something like those lines. That's a lot of fun for me. I don't like my teams to be in very tough. I don't like my teams to be in very close games. It gives me a heart attack. But for other teams, absolutely. I can watch those all day. Uncle Lou, got him in here. Glad to see you join the live stream. I'm going to start joining yours every now and then whenever you every stream. It's been a while. I've been off for a little bit. Emperor of Rome once again saying that that was the year that Bama beat Auburn 32-0. Great times. Hey, Emperor of Rome, you're still, kicking ass against Auburn, without a doubt. I know last year, 2 years ago, you didn't. But more times than not, you're taking care of business against the Tigers, and things have definitely, since 2008, things have been an upward trend for Alabama and the Crimson Tide. All right. So that's going to pretty much wrap things up here with our live stream today. Pretty good live stream. I got to tell you guys, I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be doing this. And like I said, we're going to stay consistent. When we say we're going to do something, we are going to make sure we do it. Today is Sunday. This was the first one back. We are going to have a live stream coming out. Our plan on Tuesday. That's the plan, at least. Also on Thursday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, check Twitter at Gridiron Expert. That's when we will put out. That's when we will announce when we're going live, but bank on it being a Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. Come in, get ready to discuss some college football, bring some questions, bring some topics, and of course stay tuned here because we're going to have individual videos coming out as well. So make sure you stay tuned for all of that. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe. Help us get to 2,000 subscribers by the end of April, especially before we kick off prediction season in June. And I'm just giving that away. It will be coming in June as usual. And of course, tell others to come join this live stream. You've seen mine. You've seen Uncle Lou's. You've seen Mark Rogers. You've seen some of the other big-time YouTubers out there, some of the other college football analysts. Make sure you add this to your list if you haven't already, and help us out, as always, with the Super Chat as well. That will be continuing and always be available through these live streams over the next couple of weeks and months until we get into the heat of college football. So as always, thank you for watching. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you all again here on the live stream